This. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for being here today. Want to really quickly, high level, explain to you what we'll be discussing today. So today is really about what high performance mindset is and what we need to really do for ourselves and our team in order to succeed in our goals and our targets this year. Okay, so we're going to be talking a little bit about how to set ourselves up for success. And for you guys that have sales teams, I would highly recommend that you start to hold some of your team members to these things as well. I personally use them. Again, before we can build any skills on top of in sales, we have to make sure that we get ourselves to the best possible mindset. There's no other role or position that you have to be on point for more than in sales. Okay, being off, and maybe some of you guys have experienced it, but you can get into a rut, and that can be very, very costly to you and your business. A lot of times we associate having down sales with other things that aren't necessarily true. So today, what I'm going to introduce to you is basically a core of how we remain in a high performance state. Okay, so we're going to cover putting yourself in positions to win. Okay, how to set yourself up to hit your actual sales targets, 2 reasons you miss your numbers, how to avoid ruts and sustain high performance, energy management and regulation, rituals for sales success, and how to break your sales rut. Okay, to get into a baseline. Just by a quick show of hands here, if you can give me a 1 in the chat, how many of you guys have experienced the sales rut? How many of you guys have been in a situation where you were in a rut?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Not uncommon, right? So in those situations, how have you guys dealt with it? How do you get yourself out of it? Anybody have anything that they do to get themselves out of a sales rut? Okay. Nobody? All right. So just out of curiosity, how many of you guys are actually full-time salespeople here? Anybody here a full-time salesperson? Meaning taking calls all day, every day? Yes? Okay, cool. All right. So one of the as we go through this, you'll see what I hope that you guys end up leaving here today with is really how to analyze and figure out how to, what a rut is and how to get yourself out of it. Okay. So first things first, in order to have a successful sales team of any sort, all right, we need to set projections. Okay. Some will say goals. Goals are sort of your targets. Projections are the bare minimum standard, are your bare minimum standard. Projections are the numbers you're still able to hit even when shit goes south. Okay. Goals are okay. I'm not a big fan of setting goals. I definitely, with all of our sales teams, we have to be setting projections. Okay. And that's your worst case scenario. A lot of guys get that wrong and they start to treat them more like goals or pie in the sky. When you're running a sales team or you have salespeople, that are working on your team, it's important that we set them up with structure. Okay. Does anybody here set sales projections for themselves?
I do.
You do? Okay, great. Is that monthly, weekly? How are you doing that?
Yearly, it changes because I'm seasonal.
Okay.
So it changes during the year, but my yearly projection is always much more than I think I'm going to do.
Okay. So that might be a little bit more in line with a goal and our target. Yeah. Okay. So why use projections? I'll explain to you why. So many people don't start setting themselves up in a sales structure first, and then they want to hire salespeople and they don't know how to manage them. Okay. One of the biggest mistakes you can make with any sales team is treating them like you would treat your staff on site. Okay. They're not your production people. They require a totally different atmosphere and environment in order to succeed. Okay. And I want you guys to really take it from your perspective. there's a really good saying that like a salesperson's business is inside of your business. Okay. And again, when we're hiring, when we're bringing people on, we really have to look for that personality type. All right. And then we have to provide structure. If you want to have a successful sales team and somebody that is top level, you need to set up an environment, make sure that there's rituals and things in place that both protect them and ensure that you're getting results. Okay. The worst thing that we can do is send our team out with no direction, no targets, no projections, and just say, hey, go sell things. All right. And I've seen this over and over again. I've seen guys go as far as dropping the kid off in a subdivision and telling them to knock doors, no script, no structure, no nothing. Quick way to fail. Okay. So why don't we use goals? All right. Well, let's just be honest. Goals get us excited, right? They're fun to talk about, but usually they let us down, right? They're not really structured. And they don't allow us to diagnose the problem. Okay. In sales, especially, in order to really be successful with it, you have to be at all times able to diagnose where problems are coming from. And the best way I can explain it is sales, despite popular belief, is more data driven than other roles, or it should be, right? So more quantitative than qualitative. Okay. So meaning that if you're going to be a sales manager, or you're going to run a sales team, or even holding yourself accountable, there's no other place where you can really be so quantitative and where you have to be. Okay. Why? Pretty hard to judge someone's sales skills, right? How do we do that? Well, we hold them accountable to the numbers. We hold them accountable to the projections. We hold ourselves accountable. Okay. At the end of the day, you either do or you don't, right? It's black and white. There's a very, it's a very, cut and dry if you set yourself up for that. What you don't want to get into the habit of is being sold by your salespeople. Okay. Or sold by yourself. I've seen that a lot as well. So, allowing room for excuses, allowing room for, gaps or gray areas with the sales team is all but a race to the bottom. Okay. And that's just my personal experience, but very, very important that we're leading our teams data driven with clear projections. Okay. Projections allow us to reverse engineer the path to our goals and hedge. Okay. Projections give us accuracy, so we understand what inputs determine outputs. Okay. This allows us to adjust behavior. Big, important. And I'll get into that in a minute. Keeps everyone accountable. When mastered, projections gives us control. All right. Commitments, confidence. How do we set up projections? Okay. So first of all, we always want to start every month with clear projections. All right. If not weekly. If we can start every month with a clear projection, and we're actually using, even our previous data, sales data, what have you, it's going to start to lay the groundwork for a very structured sales team. Okay. So I'll give you an example. We're running a new campaign. The company knows what they need to hit for revenue numbers. Okay. We're going to put in the bare minimum that the team needs to hit. Okay. At the beginning of the month. All right. Why? Because at the end of the month, we're going to track and figure out, where we're at. How close did we get? If not on a weekly basis, depending on how you guys are structured. Okay. The projection then allows us to kind of look at when we set these things, what went wrong. Okay. Are we hitting them some months? Are we not hitting them other months? Okay. What are the inputs that we have? So again, for you guys that are in our program, you'll know that we've set up a lot of inputs. So booked calls, calls kept, appointments set. All of these things are really, really important. A lot of times we can have a actual marketing problem that we associate to being a sales issue because we haven't got these inputs dialed in correctly. All right. I can't tell you how many times I run into that situation where, or on the other side of that, you think you have a marketing problem, you need more leads. Okay. But really you have a closing problem. You're not closing enough or efficiently enough. All right. I would say that that's more common than marketing problems. All right. There's also a very, very big gap that I find more than often is that sales is not connected to marketing. Okay. big time problem there, because it's yin and yang. All right. If you intend to run a successful sales team, or you intend to be successful in sales yourself, a lot of the handoff or the baton gets moved from marketing to sales. All right. So for example, who else is better to know if your marketing's on point than the person that's talking directly to your customer? Right. The repercussions of being off with your marketing or message to the wrong avatar or to the wrong person you sell to could be catastrophic. Right. So this is what I mean by inputs. Okay. Then we can look at the output. You know, how many closes did we get? What was our deposits? What were our revenues? Okay, leading and lagging indicators. So I'll give you an example of sort of a leading indicator is number of closes, right? Pretty easy to track that. How many closes do we have this month, right? More of a lagging indicator might be, marketing, maybe marketing related. Like how long does it take somebody to actually move through the sales cycle, right? Is it 90 days? Is it 60 days? Do we need to improve that somewhere? Okay. So super important that when we're having conversations with our team, that it doesn't get to the point where we're taking energy. And I'll tell you a quick way to take your sales team's energy. All right. And your own. It's where we get in there and we say, you should have, you could have. All right. Wrong. Don't do that. All right. You're basically, we should have done this, or we should have done that, or that's a very, very quick way to burn out a sales team or burn yourself out. What we need to be able to do is come back to a balanced center. All right. And look at our data and pinpoint where the problem is coming from. The worst thing we can do is start moving a lot of things around all at once. All right. And I can't stress this enough. And this is where these, this system comes into play. By not tracking your data, all right, it's easy to assume things. It's easy to point our fingers at the wrong thing or work on something that may not be necessarily, what's leading to the problem, right? So the first things first, do we have a sales or marketing issue? Okay. If we have a sales issue, where is it stemming from? Is it the calls being set? Is it, when we get on site and we're giving quotes? All right. All of those things can be tracked. All right. And when we look at each individual piece, it allows us to kind of diagnose where our problems are coming from. Okay. I'm going to take a minute here. Does anybody have any questions about projections? Anybody have any inquiries? No?
No.
Okay. Pretty clear? Cool. Okay. Now, what if you're not hitting your projections? I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one here, but I'm sure we've had moments where we've not hit our projections or our targets or our goals. Okay, what do we do? How do we recover from that? And I'll give you some examples of this. In Contractor AI, we've missed projections, and guess who the lead salesperson is? Pretty hard to swallow, right? I have to do some internal work and make sure that I'm looking in the right places. All right. Now, luckily, I'm pretty systemized and I've been doing this for a while, but ultimately, at the end of the day, we've got to know like what happens, right? So for two reasons: lack of hedging. Already talked about hedge, right? This is okay as long as we adjust our behavior. This is part of the reason we do this in the first place. So for example, client, I did not hit my projections of 3 this week. Okay. You only made 3 offers this week. So we can kind of see where our projections would be off. So if we're intending to, close 3, all right, nobody's 100%, are they? Is that a good projection? Probably not, right? Projections equal activity. So again, we're going to talk about that in a little bit more, but when we don't have a clear projection and we don't have the activities that are directly connected to achieving that objection. So think about it as building out a plan, right? We're not going to start building a house without a set of plans, right? We're not going to, without the plumber's not going to come in and do the electrical person's job, are they? No. Okay. So this is why we set in projections. This is why we then hold accountability to those projections. They should be realistic and something that we can do day in and day out. Okay. X equals Y. All right. Now, what will happen and what you'll find, okay, is even with projections, I'll give you my example. I'm in a sales rut myself. Okay. Not uncommon. All right. And there's a little bit more to it. So how do we get ourselves out of ruts? What is a rut? All right. So a rut is really anything less than you're performing at about 85 to 90% of capacity. Okay. So let's talk about kind of how we feel. Has anybody had a really, kind of tough personal issue go on in their life and seen their sales drop? Anybody had that experience before? Yeah.
Yep.
Right. What about, a job going bad and all of a sudden sales start dropping? Do you think that maybe those things are connected?
Yes.
Right. Okay. What about, here's a good one for you. What about not getting enough sleep at night? You think that would affect your sales?
For sure.
Absolutely. 100%.
Absolutely.
Okay. Fights with our significant others. Again, drinking, if you're drinking, like there's so many things, because what you got to remember, is your job as a salesperson, really you're responsible for change, right? All sales is change. Okay. But on top of that, in order to be a leader and in order to lead your client, you have to provide clarity. Okay. If we can provide clarity, and we help them to make a change, all right, well, that's really truly what a sale is. Okay. If we show up and our mind isn't connected to, that outcome or that goal, what are we doing? Right? We're not able to lead that customer. We might not be confident. Maybe we've ran into some bad sales, or we've dropped the ball on some things. What's most important here is that we have a way to get back on track. All right. So again, a good way to know that you're in a rut, and to be really kind of aware of these things is, regressions, right? And if you're observing any of your team, you want to look out for some of these signs as well, right? So dips in performance is natural, in the micro, right? So due to quality, market volume, we're not, day to day, it's a micro thing, right? Dips in performance, in the macro is you. Okay. So 10% drop in closing percentage, call to close across 30 days, you're definitely in a rut. Okay. So again, just by a show of hands, I'm curious here. How many of you guys track your closing ratios? Anybody here track their closing percentages at all, or the number of calls they take? I know that any of my students, they will be. So
I used to, I've stopped.
Okay. I'm going to promise you, and the outcome of all these calls will be that if you want to be a true salesperson and you really want to take your business to the next level, you should always be scorecarding and tracking. Here's why. If you lose 10% of your sales, okay, and you're in a rut and you don't know it and you keep doing it and it just progressively gets worse and there's no feedback, there's no buy-in, what are you going to say? Where are you going to point your fingers? Is it going to be on you? Are you going to be aware of that? Or are we going to start panicking and, buying more marketing or buying a leads campaign, or what's the answer to those things? Or do we just stay in place? Do we just let our business start to disintegrate, right? A lot of the time, what we'll find is because we're not tracking, we're not actually coming back to the real source of the problem. That's us. Okay. That might be a team member. There may be things that can be corrected, and you'd be very, very surprised how many times just when you bring it up and you're looking at those numbers that you can immediately pinpoint the problem. Okay. And your job at that point is to keep your mind clear, because you can't lead your customer to clarity if you're not clear yourself. It's impossible. Okay. So again, tracking super important. Now, how do we catch it sooner? Qualitative, right? Measurements. Measurements of our energy. Okay. So this is where we kind of get into the high performance contractor. And this applies more than just sales, but if ever an area you're really going to see the benefits of this, it's going to be 100% in your sales. So we've got a couple key areas that we get energy from in our lives. All right. So psychology, clarity, necessity, inspiration. Okay. We can also project these things. Okay. We can also, show up on a daily basis, track these things and know where we're at. All right. And try to work to get ourselves to an optimum state. Some will call it flow state. Some will call it some other things. 100% achievable. Okay. Especially if you're in sales. I can't stress to you enough. If you're a high ticket closer, okay, you're closing big deals, a lot on the line. This is the game. All right. It's mastering yourself. Okay. Most businesses and most of you guys, if you've been hanging out with me long enough, I will tell you, you're the only thing scalable within any contracting business is sales and marketing, right? Get good at them both and you won't have any other, real issues to overcome. And I make it sound that simple because it can be, right? So again, if you want to grow and scale and actually find freedom, you have to master these skills. And part of mastering sales is being hyper aware of yourself. Okay. And making sure that you have control over your energy. All right. Showing up and being alert and being aware is how we serve our customers. It's how we ask good questions. It's how we move a customer from no to yes. Okay. So exercise, diet, sleep, water, meditation, all of ways that we can change this state. Okay. A sedentary, dehydrated, sleep-deprived salesperson who has been running on junk food for a week and is not going to perform at its highest capacity, even if he has a world-class mindset. Okay. Number one way to produce energy. Okay. So how do we do this? It's pretty simple. For most of us, it's the small things. So again, does anybody track how much water they take in on a daily basis? Anyone even know how much water they're supposed to consume in a daily basis? Pretty quiet. So do you know what happens when you become over dehydrated over time? And again, this blew me away as well. Okay. It affects your sleep. It affects your mood and it affects a whole bunch of areas in your body. And it makes it very difficult to have clarity, right? So if you were to take away one thing from today, and implement one single thing, all right, how hard would it be for anyone here to drink more water? Amazing, eh? You didn't think you'd show up to a sales training where I told you to drink more water. I've personally seen a 3 to 4% improvement in my sales and up to a 5 to 6% drop when I was dehydrated or hydrated. That is significant when you start to calculate that over time. Okay. How would I know that? How would I be like, again, it's all trackable. All right. So if you have a sales team, if you're a salesperson yourself, start with the basics, right? Exercise, very, very important. And I mean, you don't have to do hardcore workouts. Even taking a walk will change your mood dramatically. All right. Taking a walk with your wife or taking a walk with your kids, whatever you want to do. I mean, exercise doesn't have to be grueling or in the gym, but it has to be that your body's moving. Okay. Because if you're not doing those things, okay, what's going to happen to your clarity and how are you going to feel? All right. And then your customer is going to pick up on that energy and that's going to drop your sales. Okay. All right. So let's talk about clarity. So how aligned are you with your vision and the energy you're getting from your vision? So Tony Robbins, life supports that which supports life. When you're entirely aligned with your vision, you get energy. Okay. So I'll speak on this in terms of vision and core values is super, super important. Now, I'm not talking about the vision for the business. Okay. I'm not talking about that. If you want to be really successful in business itself, you need to have a vision for your life. Okay. So this becomes a little bit more personal, and you also have to have a set of core values, because I will tell you from my own experience, one of the biggest ways to zap your energy and to, kind of, go through life feeling disconnected, all right, is to not have a set of core values that you stand by. Okay. So, core values could be the amount of time that you determine to spend with your family. If a core value is, your connection to your family, all right, and you're working 80, 90 hours a week, all right, well, are you being true to your core value? And is that the vision you wanted to live? The answer is no. Okay. In which case, what happens? Our energy drops, right? We're not happy with it. We start to grind. And when we start to grind, we start to fail at sales. Okay. I can't express to you it enough. There are types of salespeople that go out and they grind, and there is, you do have to have drive towards it, but sales is a finesse game. Okay. It when done with finesse, that's where you have true success. Just grinding through sales and just doing it to do it is not going to bring you the results that are going to, make your vision come true. Right. It's not going to get you where you need to be. Not like, again, I feel like a lot of car salesmen grind. Okay. And just kind of putting it out there. But I mean, a car salesman is essentially an order taker, right? In the contracting world, we don't get the luxury. Most of us don't get the luxury of being order takers. Okay. If we want to be a true closer, and I express this to everybody, hopefully I've got clarity on this. There's a big difference between a salesperson and a closer. Does anybody know what the difference is between a salesperson and a closer? Extra points if you can answer this one. Okay.
So what's the difference between what? A closer?
So what's the difference between a salesperson and a closer?
Yeah. I think the closer will just, get more deals done than the sales guy. He's very oriented to close deals.
Pretty close. So a salesperson stops at no, and a closer starts at no. Okay. So, and a closer, again, they're not going to be set back by no. It doesn't affect them or their psychology or their clarity or anything. I mean, again, a lot of us lack the confidence that it takes to work through objections, right? That's why we don't get the deals. Why do we lack confidence? All right. Well, maybe we're not living.
Because we haven't learned it.
Right.
People don't learn it. They don't get the skills, right? They don't have the skills.
Absolutely. And it comes out in other ways as well, right? So again, this is a really important thing. I think everybody here could benefit from is writing out your core values. All right. And again, getting back your energy, getting back your power, right? These are the ways, like these rituals that you would do. And every successful high performing person does. Okay. I've met very, very few, actually I've met none that don't have rituals that they do to preserve their energy. They're taking care of themselves. And again, for guys that have been struggling and getting down, you have to invest more in yourself, all right, than anywhere else, right? And this is the first place you start. If you want to grow your business, you want to do something you're uncomfortable with, you want to be a high performer, these are the things you need to focus on first to get there. Okay. These are the things you have to get dialed in, because without them, you're not a high performer, period. Full stop. Okay. All right. If you get to the finish line and let's say you achieve your goal and you're a big salesperson, but it costs you all of your health, right? Are you a winner at that point? Can we call you a high performer? Right. What about all your relationships? Maybe you blew all those and sacrificed all them in the process. What about your mental health, right? Joy, fun, like you got to think about these things, right? If we're just focusing on one thing, one outcome, and we're willing to sacrifice everything else to get there, you're going to lose. That's not winning. I assure you. Okay. And you won't enjoy the achievement when you get there. And some of us, again, I know many clients that I have personal relationships with here, I've had to remind over and over again about these things, right? and that, we can't just put blinders on and work our way through problems. A lot of it comes back to facing these simple, these simple things. They're simple, but they're not easy, right? All right. So necessity. These are the reasons why what you're doing is important. Your reason gives you energy. Two types: selfish reasons and unselfish reasons out of service for others. Okay, so necessity is just, again, when we think of our daily reminders, our affirmations, are the things that are our reason for getting up. Has anyone ever really explored what their motivations are? Has anyone really had that, drawn out or systemized? I know it's a strange question to ask, right? But if you knew the reason why you do things, right? Whether it be, you want to have a big house and all the trucks and all the toys, and you want to be the, the big man and maybe that's your selfish reason, right? You want to be the center of the show, or maybe it's not an unselfish reason. Maybe you do it because you enjoy having impact on people's lives. Maybe you do it for your kids, your family. Like those are important to have, insight and to be reminded of. Okay, because there's going to be times when you're challenged, especially in sales. Okay, and where our confidence gets zapped, where our energy gets zapped. So again, how many of you guys get energy from being rejected? How many of you are really pumped about that? No? Probably not too many.
Yeah.
Again, good closers, it's just, they're closer to another close, right? It doesn't affect them, but for the most of our clients, we don't like rejection. Nobody does, right? So if we're dealing with, and in sales, you ultimately deal with more rejection than you do with success. Okay. If we aren't clear about the reasons we're doing what we're doing, it can be very easy to start to lose performance, start to, again, dip or to go into a rut, right? Or to avoid it, right? I know too many guys that avoid doing sales because they don't like rejection. I mean, I guess I don't blame them, but if you turn that around and really started to build rituals around the performance of it, you'll find that you naturally become much better at it, right? And it allows you to recover from those rejections much easier. Okay. Inspiration is energy. Okay. Your inspiration comes from information you intake into your inputs, right? Inputs dictate your outputs, because you can only influence someone in the external world based on your internal philosophy and energy. Does anybody kind of get what I'm saying here? Anybody get kind of what I'm referring to? I'm going to explain it a little bit more, but
100%.
So let's think about it this way. If we're consistently surrounded with, junk, media that's just doom and gloom, all right, and you're in an environment where, everything is negative, people are down, what ends up happening to you when your inputs are negative?
Energy going to go down.
Absolutely, all day long. Okay, so you can actually remove those things. So thoughts are inputs, right? How we think about the world and our philosophy on it. We have a decision, and that affects our whole psychology. Okay. We have a decision to look at the world in a certain way, and the human being, every human being has a natural tendency to look at things negatively. Okay. That's our natural tendency. Why? Okay. It's primal, right? We always want, like, when we're on the savannah, looking at the situation like it was dangerous kept us alive. Right? That doesn't serve us anymore, though. So, with that in mind, a lot of times as owners and as, salespeople, or leaders of anything, okay, we're really left alone. We're left alone with our thoughts. We're left alone with, our negativity, and we have the ability to influence those things. All right. We have all of the power and the control. All right. Again, a lot of times, when I speak to owners, I can tell kind of where they are and the traumas and the losses they've taken by just the way they speak, right? I can pick up on that energy that they're bringing to the table, right? Sometimes, and again, maybe some of you guys do it as well, but have you ever had a conversation with a staff member and knew something was way off? Right? Maybe they had a fight at home or something like that. Like, again, we put that out to the world. It's, again, it's more than just words, it's body language, it's everything. So what I'm trying to get to here, and for everyone to understand, is it's very difficult to hide if you're not optimal, if you're not in a flow state, if you're not, really, clear in your mind. Bringing that into a sales environment is going to, make that very clear to your customer, and it's going to create doubt in their mind. Even if you're saying the right things, okay, even if you're doing the right things, it's still going to create doubt. All right, they're going to pick up on that energy. So it's your job to neutralize that. And I'm going to give you guys a really, really cool tool and an exercise to go home with today that I personally do, and I'm going to talk to you about my daily ritual. For myself and for many other clients that I work with, it's a game changer. It may not be a game changer for you. You find your own ritual, but the bottom line is we have to look at these areas. If you want to be a successful business owner, you want to be a successful salesperson, you want to be anything that involves high performance, okay? The first place to start is ourselves, all right? Not many people do. Not many owners that I encounter are concerned with these things, and they need to be, okay? So again, dealing with frustration, bringing those things into the table, right? And I know everyone here has had those feelings. Everybody here has had, negativity. So, what's the answer to this? Well, what's the solution to it? Okay. So what I'm going to share with you is kind of my daily ritual, how I start my day, and what I do to kind of improve things when I'm not feeling optimal. All right. So first of all, one of the first things that I do is I figure out what I'm feeling. Might sound pretty simple to everybody. All right. But I always want to find myself in a neutral state. Okay. Completely neutral. My day starts at 4 a.m. The reason I start at 4 a.m. is I have a little bit of ADD. So like when the day actually starts, it's hard for me to get work done. So I get everything that I need to get done usually after between 4 and 9 a.m. when my day actually starts. Okay. But before I start anything, I make sure that I neutralize any emotions that I'm feeling. Okay. And this can include, and I'm going to explain this whole system to you guys a little bit, but it's very difficult to be a high performer if we're not balanced with our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts. Okay. And I'm not going to get deep into this, but basically, if I wake up and I'm feeling frustrated, I know that I need to discharge that emotion. I need to take that sense of frustration away. So what I do is basically I've got a system to go through it, right? I'm going to identify what that actual problem is, right? My boss is not delegating or communicating. Cool. All right. I'm going to put a rating on that. Again, I'm tracking these things on a daily basis, because what you'll find is you pick up these negative charges and you don't realize where they're coming from. All right. Until you start to kind of track this. And you only have to do this for a very short period of time to start to know what you need to remove from your world. Okay. A good example of this is anxiety. All right. It didn't take me long to figure out that I can't watch TikToks anymore at night. I had to turn that stuff off. All right. It might seem funny to some, but it was creating anxiety. It was creating, anxiety and fear. And I was going to bed with it and I was waking up with it. All right. Because I was watching, social media too much. So I stopped doing that. That became something I got out of my routine. I don't watch any social media after 6 o'clock. I put my phone down. I get it away from me. All right. And it only took me a couple of weeks, or not even a couple of weeks, maybe 2 weeks, to continuously have to discharge that emotion and figure out where it came from. All right. Now, again, without tracking, without having a ritual in place, how do you know that? Right? You may be doing the same thing over and over and over again, wondering why you're feeling this way, and the answer is right in front of you, right? So again, the first step is to figure out what it is. What is the problem? Why am I feeling this way? Right. And then I want to neutralize it. So again, here's a lot of different ways you guys can do this. This works for me. It's a systemized approach. It's, you know, I work well through like affirmations and thoughts and like sorting out my thoughts to get clarity. So for some of you, this may be yoga, this may be exercise. There's a lot of different ways that you can neutralize these things. But the bottom line is, if you want to be a high performer, you have to find yourself present. Okay. How do we get present? How do we be truly present? Present for our families, present for, you know, sales calls, present. Okay. And by the way, that is the essentially when you're alive. That's what I'm describing. Okay. So what I mean by that is most of us live in a high anxiety state. All right. I can talk to most of you guys here. You're constantly stressed about things. We're always living in the future. As contractors, we have to live in the future. We have to be 3 steps ahead. We have to be thinking about the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. The problem with that, though, is it's impossible to be present. You can only, nothing new or creative happens there. All right. We can just do what we already know how to do. It's not a high performance state. Okay. And over time, all right, it's going to send the wrong signals to your body. It's not a, you know, again, it's going to stop you from living life. You're literally in a survival mode there. All right. The opposite to that is depression. When we feel depressed, we feel, you know, we didn't get our way, or, you know, but it's the same state. Nobody wants to be in depression. No one wants to be in an anxiety state either. All right. Neither position there can you actually get something new or creative done. Can you actually be in a flow state? It's impossible. All right. Our bodies won't allow us to it. Another good example of this for guys that get overexcited with things, right? I have this problem. A great idea comes in and I can't sleep at night. All right. Even though it's positive, it's still a negative, because with every charge you have the opposite charge. So you have to neutralize that as well. Right. So sometimes I will get overexcited about an idea. I mean, Eric, I shared my experience with you about the affiliate program. You know, Eric brought me a great idea and I was really excited about it, and it affected my sleep, which again, then I have to, you know, I have to make up for that and neutralize all that stuff so that I can perform my job, right? So I can be present for my clients. It actually was something I had to do, right? So again, don't think that you know, everything has to be negative to do this. Okay. It can be positive as well. Okay. And then, you know, a lot of us struggle with accountability and we don't know it. Right. A good way to put yourself in depression is not taking accountability. Right. Why? Because we're going to blame other people. We're going to blame things. We're going to point our fingers. It was this, it was that. All right. One of the easiest ways to get back your energy is to own it. Right. Own everything that's going on in your world, because you're 100% in control of it. If you're 100% in control, all right, you're never going to be the victim. All right. In a victim state, we have no energy. We have no power. Okay. We can't help anybody. We have no impact. We can't be the leader of our families. We can't be the leader of our communities. Okay. We should never, ever try to be in that state. And for the most part, I'd say everyone on this call, at one point or another, or, you know, consistently is not in that state. So, you know, again, being an entrepreneur, you naturally, you know, tend to take more accountability. And hopefully, again, nobody's really struggling with deep depression, but that's where it comes from, right? When we dwell on things. Gratitude. I don't know how many times I could say it over and over again, but we have so much in our world. If we just showed gratitude towards it, amazing things happen, right? You could put me in the middle of a war zone and I could, you know, go through these rituals and I would somehow find gratitude. You know why? Because that gives me energy, right? That makes me feel better. That gives me an optimum state, right? And nobody on planet Earth can tell me what I can be grateful for, right? Nobody gets to tell me that. All right. And like I said, for every negative, there's a positive. It's just in perspective, right? So getting ourselves out of a bad situation, or, you know, having something go on in our lives that's really affecting us, it's a decision whether we dwell on it or not. It's a decision whether we release it or own it or, you know, show gratitude towards it, right? And then, and only then can we take action, or we should take action, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up is a lot to do with what comes after that. So if you're just going through your day in, day out, and you're not aware of these things, and you're not working to be in an optimum state, you're not working to, you know, have clarity, you're not going to perform well in sales. You're not going to perform well in business. Okay. We're going to stay generally where we've been at, because that's all we, you know, we won't learn new things. We won't take on new opportunities. Okay. We might not even be able to see opportunities that are right in front of us. Okay. You see how important this stuff is? How you feel is directly connected to the actions and the behavior that you take. Right. So let's put it into perspective. There's a reason why a salesperson can go into an offer, have no leads, no opportunities there, and all of a sudden start, you know, selling contracts. I know people like this. Why? They've got control of their emotions, their thoughts, their feelings, and they're going in and looking at it still as an opportunity. Whereas you have the average salesperson that goes in, and what do they start to do immediately? They lose their head game. They can't find opportunities. Oh, it's the leads, it's this, it's that, it's everything else but me, right? And how frustrating is it to have somebody like that on your team? I know everyone here has had somebody like that on their team, because I'll say most of the population is like this, right? Most of the population is not in control of their energy. Okay. They're unaware of it. They're, you know, not emotionally intelligent either. Okay. It's not something we get taught. Unless you're really seeking this kind of information, we don't, you know, it's not something taught in school, for example, right? Controlling our emotions sometimes gets a bad look. This is what controlling my emotions looks like to me. All right. Controlling your emotions and being in charge of, you know, being in an optimal state is going to be different for you. Okay. For me, again, it's about neutralization. It's about coming back to a point of center where I can make good decisions, and I know they're not influenced by emotions which come and go and they can mislead me. Right. So making a decision when we're fearful or in high anxiety, what do you think the effects of that would be? Right? Are you going to make a scared decision? Are you going to maybe not see an opportunity, play small? I guarantee it. Right? So let's flip this for a second. If you get really good at these things, what can you do for your customer as a salesperson? What can you do for them?
Change our energy.
Absolutely. You got it. If you're capable of controlling your own energy, you can do the same for someone else. And guess what? Sales is influence, right? How do you influence somebody when you can't control your thoughts, your feelings, and, you know, your world and your outlook? How do you do that? How do you become really successful? This is the real secret here, guys, whether you realize it or not. And I mean, again, you can watch enough Tony Robbins, like the message is out there. People know this stuff. Some of you may be well aware of this stuff on the call already, right? But this is truly, again, what I would say is what's led me to a tremendous amount of success. And not only that, I feel like I actually live life, right? I have a full life that I'm very grateful for, and I've got a lot of gratitude. I wake up most mornings feeling good, lots of energy, put lots out to the world. I love to give and treat others with, you know, get other people big wins. You know, those things give me energy, right? How do I know those things do? Well, I track it. I know what it does. You know, I remove the things that take my energy away. I don't deal with them, right? And it could be one person in your world, in your life, that's constantly taking energy from you, that's affecting your sales, right? Like, it's crazy. But, you know, and what's the difference between, you know, being totally optimal and being 70% optimal? Big difference. Now add that up over time, right? We put two people in the exact same position, same conditions, same everything. Why will one rise and one will fall? It's again, I can't relate it all to this, but you know, some to do with skill, but I would say most of it, 90% is attitude, energy, how you feel, your disposition, you know, how you manage stress. All of these things come into play. So that was quite a rant, lots of information.
Mhm.
Does anybody have a takeaway that they've gotten from this they'd like to share? Anybody have a takeaway?
Dr. J.
I'm not, no. And if you know me, I'm not a
Dr. J.
mindset coach at all. It's not my thing. I'm showing you a system or a process that I use so
Yeah.
that I can
But-
get back control, right?
But that makes sense. That makes totally sense. And just to share one of my experience there, I went to a retreat in Denver, and I met, Joe Dispenza, great guy, and he's all about changing your level of energy and
Absolutely.
centering yourself. And how are you able to feel, love with yourself?
Right.
Feel, that you feel worthy, feel that you're abundant of all this riches. And um and then it changed my life. So every day I do about an hour of meditation, and what it does for me, it just it helped me to live my life in a
Right.
more focused and present moment every day, because as an
Bingo.
owner of a company, we're always chasing, the shiny things, right? The big goals, the money and this and
Right.
that. And, it's just, we're living in the future, and this is not our mission. Our mission is living a life,
That's
living,
right.
loving yourself, and, being attracting all of the positive things that you can manifest. And, when you change your energy, you're changing, your life. You're changing what you're gonna attract in your life. So if you attract something like, hey, I got an accident today, well, think about why you got a car accident today. Are you responsible of it? Are you taking, full responsibility? If not, go see why. So I think taking 100% ownership
Yeah.
of your life and what happened, we are all the creator of our lives. So that was my takeaway, Jay.
Yeah.
I connect with what you said there, and a lot of people probably on this call connect at a certain level. But I'm happy, to share some of the meditation I do. It just changed my life, and thank you, Jay, for bringing this on this call today.
Absolutely. And one thing we're going to do moving forward, this is really important to me, and for every one of our customers that we work with, is that it's not, in order for me to get you to a next level, and in order for you to find success that is sustained, all right, most of the time it's not the problem you think it is. All right. Again, getting somebody, just inserting somebody into a successful business doesn't guarantee success, right? We can all be put in situations where we can all improve, and we can all be better. Every day is about living life, right? It doesn't matter. Nothing that you're doing in your life right now will matter at the end, right? Now, what will matter? The relationships you built, the connections you made with people, all right? The trust that, like, what do you think you take from this planet? I assure you it's not money and businesses and, material things. I assure you it's not, all right? And you can't wait till you get those things to start living. And what's crazy about this, and which, again, took me many years to really discover and understand, I didn't become success at all until I fixed myself, the more I worked on myself, the more my business became successful, the more my life became fuller, the more I felt, that I was connected to the world, the more I could connect to others, the more I could help, right? But it all started with getting control of the things I have control of, right? Again, you can run a huge business, and you can be completely devoid of feelings. And I've been there. Like, I've worked the 90 hours, lost the relationships, the divorces, all those kind of things. I've lived through that. And again, that person that I was back then, compared to who I am now, like, I wouldn't have that person in my house today, right? That's a very big insight, because I was a small person, right? Like, I blamed other people. Like, all the behaviors and habits that I could have controlled directly led to the results that I was getting. And that was unhappiness, right? in my business and everything else. And I missed opportunities. I let them slide, right? When I started to really, take a step back and not worry about having to grind, having to do more work, be this vision that maybe I'm not clear about, right? Like, I had a vision that I was going to be the biggest roofer, I was going to do all the work. I was going to be the biggest guy, right? That maybe some of you've had that idea and maybe some of you haven't. And I really held that one for a long time. I felt like everyone was against me. It was always somebody else doing something to me that wasn't allowing me to get there. And that was absolute bullshit, right? And again, if I ever had to go back and look at those numbers, I know like the numbers would have told me, the data would have told me, no, you just suck at sales. You haven't developed. People don't like you that much because you're not a good person. You're not thinking clearly, right? You're not an influence. You're not somebody that somebody could trust, with big projects. And ultimately you end up attracting the wrong people, right? You end up saying yes to the wrong things. So how important is this? I think it's the core. I don't even want somebody to have success. Let's say they wanted to grow their sales and marketing if they're not a whole person, right? How do you welcome a new team and really support that team? A lot of us suffer with that. Like, how do we connect with, our guys on a human level? We can't, unless we have our own clarity. And it's so easy to get wrapped up in these things, right? We wake up with stress, day in, day out. Some of you guys might not be sleeping. It affects you there. Like, again, I can't express it enough. It's a marathon. It's not a race, right? Every day we got to be doing these things to keep ourselves in optimal shape so that, abundance comes to us, right? The other way is chasing money. And if we're chasing money, I promise you only problems will follow. Only problems. If you wake up every day and you're trying to solve a problem, okay, guess what? Money will follow. If you wake up every morning, you think about nothing, nothing's going to follow, right?
Yeah. Chase gratitude.
Right? Chase relationships. Like, again, here's small things you can do every single day. And it starts with yourself. Again, putting yourself last. How do you help your family? How do you influence your children if you're always put yourself last? Is that the image that you want to project to the world? Is that your core value? Is that, what I mean? Is this in alignment? And I feel like that's the big conversation here is like, when we're in alignment and, we're living to our core values, we're living to, our vision. All right. And we're doing things to take care of ourselves and provide what really can get in your way. Think about it. What could really cause you to not be successful? It's pretty simple, right? If you feel optimal every single day, right? And you have control over that. If you can change the way you're feeling, your emotions, the stress that you're feeling, if you can have control over that and just stop it, how much more successful would you be? Right? Some of us might find we're chasing the things we don't even care about, right? I mean, who knows, right? Have you ever stopped to ask yourself the question? All right. So without getting too deep in this, I want to make sure that we come away with a couple of really important things. So I'm going to share this presentation to you. Let's start with the really small things, hydration. If we can track how much water we're drinking. If anyone's interested, I have tracking sheets for all this kind of stuff. I'll share them in the group. Really simple to track. Again, it's just holding yourself accountable to the numbers. The numbers will tell you if you're on or off your projections, right? So projections isn't just a instrument for business. Okay. I can't express this to you. And if you have a sales team, having these things in place will help your team to perform at a higher level. All right. Having your team know how to, or taking your team through some of these exercises. I promise you, take the one that I'm going to share with you, getting back to yourself. Next time you have a conflict with an employee, a conflict with a team member, a conflict with your wife, go through this. Trust me, it diffuses it. It takes down it neutralizes the energy, right? Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Anything they'd like to ask or share?
Yeah, I think it was a great call, man.
I hope so. It's the start of a lot more that we're going to build on top of building an awesome salesperson, being awesome in sales, but it starts with you, right? It starts with you, the person. I can't teach you skills if you're not in a present state of mind to take them, right? You can't receive that. You can't put those things into action, right? So we have to get these things if you want to be a top performer. And I don't want to teach anyone mediocrity, right? So anyone that works with me knows that we don't do mediocrity, right? We're not looking to be just semi-par or good enough, right? Cool.
Mhm.
All right, guys. So just a reminder to everyone, we're starting role plays on Monday. I think they're Mondays. They're posted in Skool now. So if you want to bring your sales team, again, there will be reminders, trackers, all those kind of things where we're going to do your projections, sales scripts, all those things that we've been discussing kind of at the top of the call. That all starts on Mondays. So a lot of you guys are moving into having to do discovery calls with new customers. So please share some of this information with your sales team if you are intending for them to come. And take part in this yourself, because this is how I'm going to hold you accountable as the salesperson. If you've put your hand up and you're in the role, again, get ready, because we're going to not only crush your sales, but we're going to make you feel great and have some finesse while we do it. Cool. All right, guys.
Cool.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Yep. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Enjoy your week, man. Bye, everyone.